Today, we are going to be ranking all 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL from worst to best. Subscribe if you're new, let's hop into it. So for this video, we are going to begin with 32 and work our way to number 1. I also put these quarterbacks into separate tiers, so we'll talk about that as we go through the video. And we are going to begin with that number 32, and a team that is in a tier by itself. It is unfortunately going to be whoever the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback is. Now, this is the one team that we really have no indication as who is going to be the starter come week 1. Will it be Shador? Will it be Gabriel? Will it be Flacco? Will it be Pickett? We don't know who that quarterback is going to be. And frankly, regardless of who it is, I think they're arguably the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, maybe outside of Flacco, who might be moved up a couple spots. Regardless of this though, they are the only team in this tier. For this tier, I'm just going to call it the Browns quarterback tier. But we're going to go ahead and move over to 31. And for the next 9 quarterbacks, we're entering a new tier called the young and developing quarterback tier. We are beginning with at number 31, Tyler Shock. I do think Shock will ultimately win the quarterback battle between him and Spencer Rattler. If he does not win it by week 1, I think by end of season, he will be the starting quarterback. I think Shock is a talented quarterback. Frankly, I don't think he was worth a second-round pick. He's an older guy coming off multiple injuries. I do think he does play with some time and some precision. Turnovers are going to potentially be a bit of an issue early on into his career, but I think he has some talent, and I actually do kind of like his fit in Kellen Moore's system. Moving over to 30 is Cam Ward. He was taken first overall. I think he's super talented, but like Tyler Shock, he just has not played a single snap in the NFL, so I can't move him anywhere up the list. Yes, he is, however, going to be better than the Browns starting quarterback. Moving over to 29, I have JJ McCarthy. Very similar conversation here to Cam Ward and Tyler Shock. JJ McCarthy obviously is coming off a torn, I think, ACL or something along those lines. So he missed the entirety of his rookie season. We did see him though in one preseason game, and he looked pretty darn good in that game. So I'm kind of taking that short little sample size and elevating him above Cam Ward just because he's played at least like a handful of snaps in the NFL that looked pretty good. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. At number 28, I have Anthony Richardson. Now, Richardson is, so far of the quarterbacks I've talked about, the guy that has played the most football. But even though he's been in the league now for 2 going on 3 years, he's only played like 15 games. And in those 15 games, we've seen some highs and we've seen a lot of lows from Anthony Richardson. The biggest thing with AR is just, can he stay healthy, number 1, because that is the biggest thing he's been struggling with. And he's actually dealing with an injury right now in camp, which is kind of holding him back. And it could potentially pave the way for Daniel Jones to be the starting quarterback, which if that happens, I might have to remake this whole video because who knows where I'll put Daniel Jones. But when he was drafted, I loved the talent of Anthony Richardson, and I loved the idea of putting Richardson in a system with Shane Steichen, who obviously was coming from that Jalen Hurts Philadelphia background. In my headcanon, I thought that was really going to work out, and so far it just has not. Now, he is a young quarterback, and I will continue to stay at bat with him that he can develop into becoming a good quarterback if he just gets time on the field. But this is a Colts team with a lot of pressure to be successful this year, and if they are not successful, and Richardson is the biggest reason why, they're probably going to move over to Daniel Jones and see what he can do. So I worry about Anthony Richardson. I hope for the best, though. Next at 27 is Justin Fields. Now, he is the oldest quarterback, at least I think. I don't actually know if age-wise he's the oldest, but in terms of tenure in the NFL, he's been in the league the longest compared to all these other quarterbacks. But the reason why I did put him in this tier is because I still think there's some stuff to still unfold with Justin Fields. I think this Jets roster is a really good spot for him where culture-wise, pressure-wise, fit-wise, it all kind of works well with what Justin Fields is at this stage of his career. I do think that Fields has gotten better every single year. I think he's slowly gotten better, but he still has not proven to me quite yet that he is a really capable starting quarterback in the NFL. I'm kind of banking on Fields though, because I think he's played better than Richardson. And of course, compared to JJ Ward and Shock, he's actually played some football in the NFL. So I have to put him over them, of course. But I am kind of banking on Fields taking that bigger step forward these next 2 years while he's under contract in New York. If he can take those steps forward, then I'll feel a lot better about his future as a starting quarterback. But for now though, we have to see it on the field with this New York Jets team. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. These next 3 quarterbacks are all coming from the 2024 NFL Draft, beginning with at number 26, Michael Penix Jr. Now, he's only played like 3 games, but I really did like what I saw from him in those 3 games. They were super competitive with every single team they went up against. Even though they did not win every single game, I thought Penix made a lot of nice plays in those games. The stats may not showcase a ridiculous abundance of talent or anything like that from last year, but I love what I saw, and I do think so far in his career, job well done. He's now heading into the next season as the starting quarterback for Atlanta. It's a very talented unit with some great running backs, some solid receivers, and a solid offensive line, and I think for the most part, they're going to be a successful team next year, and I think a big reason why is because Michael Penix Jr. is at the helm there, and with his gunslinging mentality, I really do think Penix could be an awesome pickup for this team moving forward. Then at 25 is Drake May. Similar stuff here to Michael Penix, except May did play a handful more games, showed a lot of great glimpses, also made a lot of mistakes. Now, me personally, I like what I saw a lot from him in his rookie season. I thought he made a lot of nice plays, and I thought for the most part, he looked like the guy they drafted at number 3 for a reason. So I think the future is super bright for Drake May. This New England roster also in general has just drastically improved. So I really do expect Drake May to take a nice step forward in this next upcoming season and years beyond. You can basically take everything I said about Drake May and also apply it to my number 24 in Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams is a little bit more talented than Drake May, hence why he was taken number 1. Showed a lot of glimpses, a lot of uglies, a lot of mistakes, but that Bears roster is basically overhauled from last year with a new coaching staff, some new pieces on the offensive line, a handful of new weapons, and I expect Caleb Williams to look a lot better this next year. And then lastly, at 23, we have Bryce Young. I feel very indifferent about Bryce Young because on one half, you have to, of course, take into account all the ugly shit we have seen from Bryce Young in his rookie year and early on into 2024. But then you have the good side of Bryce, which was that backstretch of 2024 where he looked super dominant. I don't want to say dominant, but super competitive and looked really good in those games. So I'm banking on Bryce using that last stretch to push him into this next season and seeing the real Bryce Young for real this upcoming year. But again, it's kind of a risky bet to take on Bryce Young. Admittedly speaking, he was the one that I really struggled the most with where to put him at in this list. For now, though, he's at 23. But we are going to move over to my next tier, and it's only for 5 players on this list. It is going to be the quarterbacks with questions tier. And we are going to begin with at number 22, Russell Wilson. At this stage of his career, obviously has been awesome in the past with Seattle, but more recently with Denver and of course Pittsburgh last year, we have seen the highs and lows and primarily lows of Russell Wilson. He's a very limited quarterback that at this stage of his career is not the most athletic guy. And because his game so heavily relied on that athleticism early on into his career, at this stage, his game is kind of diminished in a lot of ways. He's no longer that agile, movable guy in the pocket. His arm strength is also deteriorating, and he has really struggled over the middle of the field. With that said, he is a veteran. He does know how to read defenses, and I thought at times with Pittsburgh, he definitely showcased an arm that could get the job done. We will see if he actually ends up starting this year, or if Jackson Dart, who by most accounts has looked pretty good in New York so far, we'll see who kind of wins that battle, but right now I'm going to predict it's going to be Russell Wilson. At 21, I have Trevor Lawrence. Now, Trevor is a younger quarterback. I want to say he's around the same age as Justin Fields, but I think for me, I've seen a bit more from Trevor that makes me feel a little bit more okay about him and his future. I still think there's some question marks though. Compare that to Justin Fields where he's a lot lower in the list and he's still kind of developing, so we'll have to wait and see. Now, Trevor has had a lot of shitty things handed to him so far in his career. Obviously, year 1, Urban Meyer was a colossal fail, and then these past few years, new head coach, and it looked good early on, but it just has not worked out these past few years. With that said, we've still seen signs and glimpses of Trevor Lawrence looking like the guy. It just has not been as consistent as you would like. And I think for the most part, there still is a young quarterback that's developing there. There's just a lot of question marks about has he maybe been negatively impacted by these past few years enough to where that future projection of a quarterback we think he can be is no longer there. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. At 20 is Tua. Now for Tua, the highs are super high. The highs are a top 10 quarterback, but the lows are get this guy off my roster because against good competition, he sometimes just flat out struggles. In certain weather conditions, he also struggles. But again, when he goes up against bad competition, this dude looks incredible. I think he is one of the smarter quarterbacks in the league. I think he plays with such well anticipation, and his fit with McDaniel actually is really good. It's just that, well, for starters, he can't stay healthy, which is a massive problem because, of course, the best ability is availability. But primarily that when he just goes up against better competition, he's sometimes borderline unplayable. And so because of that, I just can't put him inside my top 15 as much as I want to because the highs are super high. The lows are also super low. And when he's not on the field because of injuries, you can't put him on a list higher than 20. Moving over to number 19, I have Sam Darnold. Now, frankly, Darnold is sort of an interesting case because I've seen some rankings where he's as low as like 27. And frankly, I don't quite understand it. Last year, Darnold had an awesome year. Yes, he was with Kevin O'Connell, had some great pieces around him. And yes, he struggled late into that season because of some offensive line problems. But I thought Darnold made some plays last year that were super sharp. And, you know, he's an older guy and there's a lot of question marks with him. I shouldn't say he's an older guy, but he's been in the league for quite some time now. There's a lot of question marks with his game and, you know, what his upside truly is. But I still think he's a solid quarterback. I think his fit in Seattle is really good. And I felt a bit more confident about Darnold and his future, more so than Tua, which is kind of sad to say about Tua now. Number 18, Aaron Rodgers. Again, one of these guys that's super hard to figure out where to put him on a tier list, where to put him in a list, but he's still a good quarterback. He gets the job done. He can get the ball out super fast. You can still see glimpses of that arm talent. He's obviously one of the smarter quarterbacks at reading defenses and anticipating and making high-level throws. I thought last year with New York, a lot of the problems of that offense were not necessarily on Rodgers, but at this stage, though, of his career with him being 40, he does have a lot of limitations. Number one, just not a mover. He does not run very well. He doesn't move in the pocket very well. The arm strength is still there, but it's a little bit diminished. Some of those reads he was throwing downfield, the ball just kind of sails on and the ball just kind of takes a little bit longer to get there. Whereas for prime Rodgers, when he used to throw that ball, it got there like in a snap. And so unfortunately for Rodgers, I don't love the fit in Pittsburgh. I do really worry about it, but I still think he's talented enough to get the job done. And frankly, he's the best quarterback that Pittsburgh has had since prime Ben Roethlisberger. But now we enter into the next tier, and this is my biggest tier of this video. This tier is going to be called the serviceable to really good starting quarterbacks. And we are going to begin with, at number 17, we have Bo Nix. Now, I really do like what I saw from Bo Nix in his rookie season. His fit with Sean Payton seemed seamless. The roster in general in front of him is getting a lot better. So I do expect the best yet to come for Bo Nix. He was in Offensive Rookie of the Year conversations there for a little bit. So I feel really good about Nix and his future. At number 16 is Kyler Murray. I know there's been a lot of question marks with Kyler, and I don't think last year was the greatest year of his career by no means. But with Kyler, you still have that upside and that talent, and just when he puts it all together, he looks like a really good quarterback. A little bit shorter, so there's some limitations to his game, but he's got a solid arm. Obviously, a more mobile, athletic quarterback. He's solid in the pocket. Nice little playmaker, too. I love his upside. I wish that I could say Kyler was a top 10 quarterback because I thought he was going to be awesome coming out of college. Hasn't quite gotten to that level, but he's still a very solid starting quarterback, and I think he totally gets the job done. Number 15 is Brock Purdy. Now, I do think Brock has been a little bit of a victim of, I don't really know the word for it, but people only giving him credit because the roster around him is really good. Now, I do think we have to take some account into this conversation because, yes, Brock has been surrounded by elite talent his entire career. But I also think he's been a really solid quarterback that has been the captain of that 49ers ship. He's gotten the job done. Last year was not his best year, and I think that's kind of why I have him a little bit lower. But the highs of Brock Purdy are there. He's good against good competition. He's solid against bad competition. Like, he's just a very solid quarterback. I don't know if he necessarily elevates talent around him, hence why I have him 15 and not a little bit higher. But I do think the solidness of Brock Purdy, you can have some conversations of him being around top 12 in my opinion, and I have no issues with it. Moving over to number 14, I have Jordan Love. The highs of Jordan Love are awesome, and there are moments where Jordan Love looks like the best quarterback in the NFL, but then he has sort of an alter ego where he just looks unplayable and he makes a lot of mistakes. Jordan Love is one of the biggest anomalies in the league because he's such a solid athlete and his arm talent is just through the roof. He can truly make any throw on the field in any arm angle with, whatever leg he looks like. Like, it doesn't really matter. He can just do it all. But sometimes he makes a lot of big time mistakes. And because he's only played a handful of years, I couldn't quite put him up the list. You could arguably make the conversation that he is a younger developing quarterback still, because I think he's only played like 2 years now as a starter. He is now entering into, I think, his third year as a starting quarterback. So I expect this year to be his best year of his career. And I do think we can hear some top 10 conversation buzz surrounding Jordan Love. And number 13 is Geno Smith. I think Geno Smith has maybe become a little bit overrated these past few weeks now because of that move to Las Vegas, but I do think the film does not lie. Last year for Seattle, The offensive line was really poor, and I just think in general the team underperformed offensively around Geno Smith. I think this year, though, heading with Las Vegas, playing with Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, I love Pete Carroll. I love who they have over there. And I think for the most part, that offensive line is good enough. So I think we'll see some really good play from Geno. Next up at number 12, I have Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff is a very similar version of Brock Purdy, but I thought Goff had the better year than Brock Purdy last year. So we'll see what we look like at the end of this year. I think Goff is somebody that does not necessarily elevate talent around him, but he gets the job done. He's the captain of the ship. He gets the offense moving, puts the ball in the right place at the right time, plays with very good anticipation, precision, accuracy. I do think at certain spots, though, when he does make a mistake, it sometimes can kind of lead to a bit like a tumbleweed where just a bunch of issues start to happen. But I just think Goff is super solid. Again, I don't necessarily think he elevates talent around him. Like if you put Goff on a poor roster, the team is not all of a sudden going to become good because they have Goff. But I still think Goff is super solid. He gets the job done. He knows what he's doing. And his fit with his Detroit Lions team is just perfect. Number 11 is Baker Mayfield. Now, I really struggled with Baker Mayfield because I could see Baker as high as like number 9 on this list. It just kind of came down for me. I thought he had a great year last year, but I want to see it be sustained over the course of the next year or so. Last year, statistically speaking, Baker Mayfield was just straight out incredible. Like if you were just to look at his numbers blindly without any other, numbers in the way, team success, yada, 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 you can make the argument that Baker Mayfield should have been in MVP conversations because those numbers were out of this world. However, I just want to see it for one more year before I start pushing the Baker Mayfield top 10 propaganda. I'm really close, and if you think Baker's top 10, I have no issue with it. This is just kind of where I put him at for now. Number 10 is CJ Stroud. Rookie year, incredible. Last year, took a bit of a step back, but I still like what I saw from him, even though the situation around him was not great. I think CJ is a bit more of a product of a poor offensive line, and that's kind of why he struggled a bit last year. But even surrounding that, I still thought he made a lot of nice plays. He still played with that same poise, anticipation, precision, accuracy, so on and so forth. In my opinion, he's one of the best pocket passing quarterbacks in this league. And I'm not really too panicked about what the future holds for CJ. I'm more worried about what that offensive line looks like because CJ to me is a special talent that I think we all kind of forgot was in MVP conversations heading into last year. One semi-down year, and all of a sudden the world is over for CJ Stroud. Let's take a chill pill, guys. Number 9 is Dak Prescott. Now, I know I'm going to get a shit ton of hate for Dak Prescott in my top 10, but I really do think that Dak is a top 10 quarterback. And again, maybe you guys would disagree with me, and I'm totally down to hear your thought process on this. I think he's probably going to be my most controversial take in this video. If you think Dak is worse than Baker or CJ, I can't necessarily disagree with you. I wouldn't be too mad at your thought process. But to me, Dak is just one of those awesome pocket passing quarterbacks that unfortunately these past few years has just not really been able to stay healthy. 2023, he was healthy. He was in MVP conversations. I thought early into last year, Dak was carrying an offense that had a shitty offensive line, had no receiver outside of CeeDee Lamb, and absolutely no ground game. And yet that offense was still kind of keeping in some of these games. I do think that if Dak can stay healthy this year with Pickens, with this hopefully improved offensive line, I could see Dak Prescott kind of silencing a lot of critics because I think Dak's just a super solid quarterback. And I think honestly, some of the playoff failures he's had are a little bit blown out of proportion. Yes, the Green Bay game most recently, and I think it was 2023 or somewhere along those lines, left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And I'm not here to defend Dak because that pick 6 at around the halftime mark was just bad, and he made a lot of bad mistakes in that one. But I feel like for the most part, outside of that game, he's actually played, in my opinion, pretty fine in most playoff games. So I don't really want to hear the conversation about Dak being a playoff underperformer. I mean, maybe you can say he hasn't played up to expectation, but I don't think he's been horrific compared to like a Tua Tagovailoa. But I think in the regular season, Dak is a killer. Dak is a straight up assassin. He's precise. He plays with anticipation. He's got the moxie. Like, I think Dak's a top 10 quarterback. Now, feel free to disagree and let me know in the comments below. Number 8 is Jaden Daniels. This might seem a little bit rich, but man, that rookie season was fantastic. And I thought Jaden Daniels outplayed a lot of quarterbacks for most of the season. And at one point, there was some MVP chatter going on with Jaden Daniels, and I'm not going to sit here and deny it. He also led a Commanders team that had zero business making it to a deep playoff run into an NFC Championship appearance. And I thought he looked poised, confident, and precise the entire season. His athletic ability is the ultimate cheat code. I am somewhat concerned about a potential sophomore slump because it feels like it hits most quarterbacks. But if there was one guy I'd feel confident in on that not happening, it would be Jayden Daniels. He's just such a special talent, and I think the future is so bright for this young guy. Number 7, the opposite of Jayden Daniels. We got Matthew Stafford, a pocket passing, old-ass quarterback that probably has 2 more years left in him. Still, with all that said, the arm talent in Matthew Stafford is insane. He's still solid in the pocket. Yes, he's an absolute statue, but he still can get around, shift a little bit, make some plays. One of the smartest guys in the league, and I think that Rams team is poised for a deep playoff run this year, and I think Stafford's a big reason why. 6 is Justin Herbert. Now, this one is super interesting, and I think he's really difficult to kind of figure out. Herbert is one of the weird quarterbacks that has just been so talked about highly, but also just shitted on by so many people because of things that I think, frankly, are kind of out of his control. This is a Chargers team that has made, I think, 2 playoff appearances and has lost both those games. But frankly, I don't think either of those Chargers teams were really all that incredible around Justin. So I don't really blame him for those losses too much. Like, yes, they had a big lead versus Jacksonville, but that sort of stuff just happens sometimes. You just can't really help it. I still think Herbert is unbelievably talented. I think he has arguably one of the best pure arms in the NFL. One of the most accurate, precise quarterbacks you'll see. When he's healthy, he's also a solid mover. He works well in the pocket. Not a lot of flaws to his game. The biggest criticism that I have is that he just doesn't really have any playoff success, which we have to take into account obviously here, but I still think he's okay. And the last quarterback in this tier is going to be Jalen Hurts. Now, admittedly speaking, I don't think Jalen Hurts as a quarterback talent, just straight up arm talent wise, is in my top 10. But I think we have to put some respect on his name. That Super Bowl run they made last year, I thought Jalen Hurts was the biggest reason why they got there. Yes, they had a fantastic defense. Yes, the offense is loaded with talent with some great coordinators. But I thought Jalen Hurts was perfect. I don't think he made any mistakes the entire postseason. I mean, of course, he made a couple, but I mean, he played with so much poise, precision. His rushing ability is just such a great feature to his game. And even though he was dealing with injuries throughout the year last year, I still thought he just got the job done. Compare that to all the other quarterbacks on this list. The only person you can make the conversation with about a Super Bowl is, of course, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, and those guys. And I don't put too much stock into the conversation that, oh, if you don't win a Super Bowl, you can't be put up in these conversations. I disagree with that. But Jalen Hurts' Super Bowl run to me was just so impressive that I had to put him at number 5. I do think as time does go on, though, he might be moving back a little bit on my list because I'm kind of on the Super Bowl high right now with Hurts. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. Lastly, we have our top 4 quarterbacks. And of course, this is going to be the elite quarterback category. To me, there's only 4 truly elite quarterbacks. I think everyone else is really good or borderline elite, but not quite yet there. And I think these 4 guys are. At number 4 is Joe Burrow. You can make the conversation that all 4 of these guys can be put in any order, and I'm not going to disagree with you. This just kind of happens to be my order on how I think they'll perform in 2025. Burrow should have been in MVP conversations all year last year. He was unbelievably dominant. It's such a shame that that defense was hot ass and that Bengals team was not more successful because Burrow was absolutely cooking last year. My biggest concern for him is that I just find it very difficult that he's going to play at that level through an entire stretch in 2025. Like, I have to expect some sort of small step back because that offense was insane last year. I do worry about Cincinnati, not because of Burrow or Chase or Higgins, but because of that defense and because of some of the offensive line issues. I also think Burrow of these quarterbacks is the most injury prone of the 4, so that does kind of give me some pause too. But the ceiling of Burrow is insane. Number 3 is Mahomes. Now, I think of these quarterbacks and of all the quarterbacks, Mahomes is by far and away the best playoff performer, and frankly, it's not even really close. But I do think in recent years, Mahomes has maybe kind of not been the greatest quarterback in the regular season. Don't get me wrong, he still gets the job done most times, and when you need a fourth quarter comeback, Mahomes is the guy you want to have, or just a fourth quarter drive to win the game. Mahomes does it better than anybody else. But I do think at times Mahomes and that offense can kind of just stall a little bit and not be that productive. Compare that to the Lamars or Allens, who we're going to talk about at 2 and 1. Spoiler alert, Lamar's at 2, Allen's at 1. Not sure why I told you guys that, but here we are. I think those guys have better regular season success. And for this specific video, I'm taking a bit more of the regular season into account more so than postseason success. But if we're talking about postseason success, Mahomes would be number one. Number two, as I mentioned, Lamar Jackson arguably should have won MVP last year. The only reason why I put Allen in front of him is because I thought Allen was just a little bit better. And when it came down to it in the playoffs, Allen outperformed Lamar to get the win. He also won the MVP last year. And frankly, it's interchangeable. I feel if you say Lamar's number one and Allen's two, no problems. I just personally would put Allen at number one. But that is my list. Here is a recap of my list. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you agree with and what do you disagree with? Again, peaceful conversations down below. If you do disagree, don't go batshit crazy. It's just my opinion. And if you enjoyed, hit the like and subscribe button. Love you guys. Peace.